Uh, so I'll just go ahead and say next when I need to advance the slide. Uh, so thank you again for inviting me. I apologize I can't be there in person, but hopefully the information that I share, you'll certainly have it, and it's available for anyone to also have as well. I was actually asked to talk about, in a general way, the tsunami risk reduction and perspectives for global agendas, but I think very specifically, as Koshimura-san said, we're really focusing on the preparedness aspect and how we can advance programs like the Tsunami Ready Recognition Program. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. So next. And I wanted to just start off by presenting, I think I'm talking to most of you who are probably very familiar with tsunamis, but kind of 4 facts. And really what I'm trying to share here as we show this video, and I think you can go ahead and start it since it will loop. But these tsunamis are caused by earthquakes that are happening all over the Pacific Ocean, all over the numbers of active subduction zone around the world. And that's what you see here. This is a animation for the last 100 years of seismicity, with the largest circles, larger magnitudes, and certainly the shallow events in orange and yellow are the ones we're most concerned with for tsunami genesis. So this is again, every now and then you'll see a pink flash, and those are tsunamis that actually have been generated by these earthquakes, and they've gone across the ocean basin. So really being dangerous from all areas of the world, in all oceans, and something we really need to take into account as we move forward. So I'll just leave that there, and we'll go to the next slide, please. So next. And then if we move past that and we actually look at, well, where are these deadly tsunamis located? And what you can see on the left is a slide that shows the tsunamis that have gone across the ocean, the so-called mega tsunamis, by and large in the Pacific Ocean from the South America and the Aleutians and Japan, but also, of course, from 2004 in Indonesia, and then 1755 in Portugal. But if you look to the right, and that's a plot of the locations of tsunamis that have caused deaths that are from a local or regional in nature. So those are the events that are going to hit us within an hour or a few hours. And what you get from this plot is certainly most of our tsunamis that are deadly are caused by earthquakes, 80%. But as well, most of our tsunamis that are causing deaths are really these local or regional tsunamis, where we really need to think about preparedness and being able to have people and communities prepared. And if you look historically and statistically in terms of casualties and deaths, 90% are actually from these local or regional tsunamis. So that's fact 2. Go on to next for fact 3. And as we knew from the 2004 event that hit us, over 15 countries, 230,000 deaths, citizens from 53 countries. These large and great earthquakes that are causing tsunamis, they don't discriminate. They're a danger not only locally, for preparedness is essential, but also in the distant field for hours on end. They're a high fatality hazard. They don't care if you are a rich country or a poor country. This is a natural hazard that's potentially upon everyone's shores at any time without prediction. So let's go just to the last fact 4, next. And that's just simply where we saw from 2004, which had a 500 or 800 year recurrence interval. Japan, 2011, something like 1,000 or 1,100 years. Chile, Cascadia, on the order of hundreds of years. And that's simply that on the earthquake scale of strain accumulation at active subduction zones, we're going to get an earthquake. And then after the earthquake occurs, the strain is reduced to 0, and it builds up gradually over time, at which point it will break and we'll get another earthquake. But that's almost in contrast to the public awareness. And we saw, for example, in 2004 from the Indian Ocean, global awareness at that time. It probably continued for several years, but you might arguably say that over time and today, we have a challenge of trying to keep that awareness of the potential threat from a large and great earthquake and tsunami. So we've got an issue as we think about our most dangerous tsunamis, that because they're so infrequent, people do forget, and it's a challenge to maintain that awareness and preparedness. Next slide. But what we've done and know, and this is actually a slide that I showed about 20 years ago at the ISDR meeting in Kobe, and it's really built about what we have learned as we started a system in the 1965 in the Pacific, and that's simply that mitigation works. If we have a hazard assessment, if we know where the threat is most greatest, if we know what the inundation might be, what an evacuation is required, and we do that awareness and education to share that information across schools, many different populations, and we have a warning system that works, that is reliable, that provides timely information and addresses the hazard, whether it's distant or local. That type of mitigation does work, and if you can just roll down through some of the events, in 1993 in Okoshiri, I would say it's still a large number. We 15%, but there were issues of fires and secondary impacts and seawalls and stuff, but relatively few compared to the Tsunami event in 1998, where absolutely no awareness, no warning system. Most people who were in that area perished, and that was a reason after 1998 that we started to hear awareness on natural warning sign, and that was a poster that came out on the right. 2004, we all know about. No awareness, no warning, lots and lots of people died. And then as we gone more recently in Chile, with mitigation, and that mitigation was simply awareness that 1960 had occurred and people passing down that natural warning information from over generations, but also a number of earthquakes have increased and made sure that their buildings were constructed in more strongly, and so it was only the earthquake deaths were greater, but the tsunami deaths were relatively low. 2011, we have a number of 5%, but 5% translated to 18,000 deaths. So, quite sobering. We don't even want 5% to perish. And then the final two events were really a landslide event for which we had challenges with our system not working, whether it's the dissemination system, and certainly awareness was not as strong as we'd like, and capacity is very strong, very weak. But I think when we look at the last one, which is the Honga Tonga event, this was a volcanic eruption. It generated a local tsunami that hit within minutes of 10 to 20 meters, really close to western Tongatapu, but really only a few people died, and I think we attributed that to all the awareness, the improvements in their warning systems within Tonga, as well as to I think an understanding that when a volcano erupts, and we know, and they've learned that a volcano can cause a wave, so that they had the natural warning signs of a big cloud and birds flocking seaward or inland, dogs barking. So other ways of saying this is a natural warning sign to get out of harm's way. So we know mitigation works, and we've known this for many decades. It's just the challenge is how to make sure it's implemented. Next slide. So 2004 was that watershed event. It called us that we did need that awareness on a global scale, and we did need a warning system on a global scale, not only in the Pacific. It led to things that we're going to talk about today, which is on building resilience at the community level through things like Tsunami Ready. But at the same time, we had the concept of these deep ocean DART instruments, which help to improve our forecasting capability. And as we collected these deep ocean data, we needed modeling and codes that would work in near real time to be able to do these near time real time forecasts, which would propagate the DART, the deep ocean signal to the coast. And at the same time, as we've improved those modeling, it allowed us to do those worst case scenarios for hazard assessment, which Tsunami really requires. So that was about 20 years ago, and we've certainly hugely progressed since. Next slide. So 2004 told us from the U.S. Secretary General, these events are not going to stop, but we can do a lot better than certainly was done in 2004. We're not going to stop them, but we can look at trying to build resilient cities. Go ahead and advance again and again. Next. And from here in Japan, really we're talking about, well, as I said in one of those facts earlier, disasters fade from memory. And it's really a challenge on all of us as we continue to sustain this preparedness for a disaster, to avoid a disaster. And this was just a quote from a survivor just saying, if you are prepared, you can survive. So moving forward, next slide. So over the intervening years, over the 20 years, there's now a global system. It's has warning capability for alerts to every country, nearly every country around the world. It's supplemented by our regional warning information centers like ITIC, trying to help countries deliver not only the warning capabilities, but also building tsunami resilience. Next slide. And so this is what Koshimura-san referred to as the UN Ocean Decade, and there is a tsunami program and a societal outcome of a safe ocean where we really would like to see zero casualties. I think we do quite well for the distant event, but there's the continuing challenge for these events that hit within a few minutes to a few hours. I think Oshao-san will talk about the technology, so I'll just focus on the tsunami ready communities. And this is a video that just kind of summarizes where we are, which is to try to make as a UN decade goal of 100% of communities at risk of tsunamis prepared and resilient to tsunamis by 2030. So if you just hit the next slide, it is a video. Okay, so I think you could just go to the next slide, should work. So next. So what is Tsunami Ready? I think most of you have heard about it, but just quickly, it's really aimed at communities. It's trying to create and standardize a global guidelines in assessment, preparedness, and response. There are 12 indicators to satisfy to be recognized as Tsunami Ready. And while this is under the umbrella of UNESCO IOC, it's really thinking about how do we empower or how do we have national programs that empower communities to be prepared? Next slide. Just a quick summary of the history. This is actually a program that was pioneered in the United States. It was established in 2001 alongside a program called Storm Ready in the United States by the National Weather Service, really focused on having communities work and empowering them with better planning, better assessment, better decision-making and response. So that was in 2001. In 2011 and 15, it was actually piloted in the Caribbean, as well as encouraged at the global scale by the IOC. In 2017, a creation of training and training manuals and guides to help to support the achievements of the guidelines of the Tsunami Ready program, approved in 2021 and established as a global program under UNESCO IOC in 2022 with a goal, a ambitious goal of 2030. And we are in 2025, so halfway there. Next slide. So I thought I'd just spend a few slides and just give you a taste of what these indicators are. Of course, the number one starting point, which this session is about, is having an idea of what the hazard is. So we do need that inundation map, and we also do need the number of people at risk, whether it's under vulnerable populations, and other information of location and hospitals and things. So those are two of the indicators. Next slide. But once you have that inundation map, we want to move forward at a community level for an evacuation map. So where is it safe? Where is it not safe? We want to supplement and share that information in the evacuation map through outreach and materials. We want to have signage, like the ISO signs that were actually put forward by Japan in the early or the late 2000s. Next slide. And then finally, on the response, ability for a community to be able to receive that alert, say from JMA, but then disseminate a warning or an evacuation to the public and be able to do that on a 24/7 basis. And then finally, when we do have that system of a map, a response plan, to have that community exercise that every couple of years so that they are ready for the next event. Next slide. So that gives you a quick idea of these 12 indicators, some of the highlights. So I just wanted to share where we are. This is as of earlier last month. There are only 100 communities, but I think what we've done is started in late 2022, 23. There is a sort of a big energy right now. You can see a lot of orange dots in the Caribbean. A lot of the small island SIDS have actually parts of their island or their entire country Tsunami Ready, a smattering in the Pacific Ocean, where we still have a lot of work to do. Just a couple in the Indian Ocean, kind of led by Indonesia and India, who had huge casualties in 2004, but some gaps there. And then finally, probably the Mediterranean is where potentially there's the hugest risks. I think the number of 120 million people live within 10 meters of the coast. And I think you all know there's a large tsunami risk in at least the Eastern Mediterranean. Next slide. So this is just giving you, I'll just quickly go through this. If we were to just simply do a mapping of elevation and numbers of people on the coast, 83 million in the Pacific, of which covering 46 member states. This is where 70% of the tsunamis are occurring, 13 small island developing states. So quite a bit of work that needs to be done still. Next slide. In the Caribbean, 16 million people, 35% of their total population lives within 30 meters or 3 kilometers of the coast. 16 SIDS, small island developing states, and 29 countries. And you can see that that plot is, again, also all around the Caribbean have communities at risk. Next slide, I think. So, as I said, in the Mediterranean, the number is about 110, 20 million, and that would be excluding tourists, which flock, or other visitors to the ocean side during the summer months or winter months. But as we've gone forward, just based on 100 countries or 100 communities, 50 countries or so, our biggest challenge continues to be in that first indicator, which is the assessment. Getting that inundation map, we're just seeing that there are no modeling skills in general, especially in the SIDS countries, a lot of the developing countries, and especially in the countries that don't have as high a risk or high hazard, such as Japan or Chile. These modeling skills require a lot of knowledge, months to years, and in general, these countries don't have it. So it is a roadblock. And we're also seeing that there's no available DEM, no high resolution bathymetry, no ability to have some kind of DEM or global regional database from which to draw upon. And those are delays that are weeks, months, but certainly years or decades. And so that is our number one gap, where we think about Tsunami Ready as perhaps taking a year to go through the different indicators of assessment, preparedness, and response. If we can't get the assessment done, if that assessment is taking us a year or two, that is hindering all of our efforts to get these communities Tsunami Ready. So I just wanted to call attention to that. And I think the next one maybe is my last slide. Next. And that's just say, this is a slide I showed in 2005. And we were at a point where we could say, this is what we needed. And now I can say 20 years later, I think we do have that real-time seismic data and tsunami data, whether it's sea level or deep ocean. We are beginning to, and we do have a global network of regional warning systems built on national system. We're beginning to get ability to have our forecast models. Of course, they're ingesting real-time data, but right now they're giving us wave amplitude at the coastline. I think we're seeing possibilities that we can start to have information on inundation impacts. So we think about how the infrastructure is affected, how our homes and so on might be impacted before the wave hits. I think that's what TsunamiCast is about. And at the same time, what I hope and would like to advocate for is, we do have this inability to do hazard maps in a very efficient and timely way. We're not as productive as we can, and so that's really hindering us getting these 100% prepared communities. So if we can fast track that resilience making, I think we could do well if we could figure out how to do a global facility, and that's really about scientists, warning practitioners, government working together, putting together the types of infrastructure that's needed, the types of experts that's needed, so that we can start to produce hazard maps. Yes, they might not be they might be elevation based, but we have to have some facility that can gather DEM, so that we're not searching around this every time, one by one, purchasing little spots of data just for this little community, and then we go to the next country and we do the same thing on and on and on. We can do better. I think we have some capabilities. I think what you'll hear later is about TsunamiCast. So we can think about working together as a global community. I think we can start to tackle this problem in a fast track it in a productive way. I think that's all I have to say. Next slide. Yep. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But I think I look forward to the next talk from Dr. Ochal, and then from Dr. Koshimura to hear about progress.